I ended up working with some doctors out of Texas, had stem cells. I had one of my doctors inject me here in Utah, and the rest is history. Was noticed nothing for 3 days, and I was devastated. And then the stem cells kicked in, and I woke up, and after one night of like a perfect night's sleep, and then my shoulders got better and better. And by 3 months later, I was doing pull-ups and push-ups, and by the 6-month mark, I was just as good as if nothing had happened. If you think of stem cells, one of the things that happens as we age is we lose these vibrant cells in our body that can essentially become anything. And so one of the things scientists are studying heavily are these immortal jellyfish. And so these jellyfish, essentially, they fall to the bottom of the ocean as if they're dead, and then they go into this stem cell regenerative state, and they grow back, and they become these immortal creatures.
Initially, when we started using this, the potency and the was definitely not as good as it is now. It was still great, but I think it's just progressed. The just innovation as far as creating a better product and better stem cell density, I guess is what you could say. Or I think it's not just the stem cells, it's also the cytokines, amino acids, and those proteins that are in this birth tissue is just so healing. And just it's incredible. Welcome everybody to the Health Accelerator Challenges. This is your host of the day, Cade Archibald, and really excited to dive into some great stuff with Regan Archibald. Regan, how you doing today?
Last night, I felt like I was going to die with my little food poisoning episode. And I'm doing so much.
We're glad you're alive and well.
Yeah, that makes two of us.
What are we going to jump into today?
So today we're going to talk about ARA290 and some of the pain crisis that is experienced in America. It's something that I think as humans, we all get used to living with pain, and it's one of those areas that takes away from our quality of life faster than anything. I was just talking to one of our clients today, and he's actually just got into yoga, and he's almost 50, and he's just said, I can't believe how much transformation I've made in just a short amount of time because I started moving my body again. And so if you think of pain, I'm going to ask you guys to just do a quick overview and start thinking about where you have pain, and if you could get rid of it, what difference would that make in your life? And maybe you guys could even go back and say, okay, well, here's some times where I've had pain and now I don't have pain, and here's the difference that it's made for me. And I know a lot of you on here, you've done work with us and you've had these massive transformations. Some of you have just recently had some regenerative medicine and stem cells. And so I'll share with you guys some of my experiences. One is, this was 14 years ago now. I was snowboarding at the canyons, Park City Mountain Resort now, but I had a skier cut right in front of me, and I had two choices: either hit the skier or hit a tree. And I love trees, and so I took out the skier. And when I got up, I just knew my shoulder was wrecked. And so I got an MRI the next day. I had a full thickness tear in my rotator cuff. I'd actually fractured my scapula and my clavicle. And for 6 months, I just wasn't able to sleep. I mean, anytime I'd move, it would just wake me up. And so finally it was like, I guess I'm going to have to get surgery. And then when I realized what my chances were of that surgery succeeding, I was like, there's got to be a better way. And that's actually when we got into stem cells. I started asking around, and people are like, well, have you thought about stem cells? And I thought I was going to have to go leave the country. And, I ended up working with some doctors out of Texas, had stem cells. I had one of my doctors inject me here in Utah, and the rest is history. I was noticed nothing for 3 days, and I was devastated. And then the stem cells kicked in, and I woke up, and after one night of like a perfect night's sleep, and then my shoulders got better and better. And by 3 months later, I was doing pull-ups and push-ups, and by the 6-month mark, I was just as good as if nothing had happened. So that was a miraculous turnaround for me, because no sleep and then having that kind of chronic pain is really not a fun way to live.
Yeah, and isn't it like relieving when you wake up from that full night of sleep, and you wake up and you're not in pain? It's like, it's just amazing.
Yeah, Cade.
Yeah.
What's yours? You have a memory when it comes to pain?
Oh yes, yeah. I was in the ER screaming for more morphine.
That doesn't surprise me though. Were you actually in pain or just wanted morphine?
I was a little bit of both. So I had gone home from school for a couple days to mom and dad's house, hopped on my dirt bike, was cruising around, wrecked on my dirt bike. Dirt bike fell on my back. That's when I cracked my thoracic spine. And it was like someone was just stabbing me in the back. And so, I in the ER, the doctor, they took some images. There wasn't a lot they could do. He's like, eventually you probably need surgery on that, but there's not a lot we can do. Here's some painkillers and good luck. And I would always have to adjust, working out, exercising, snowboarding. My back would be aching. And then when we got into stem cells, that was like a game changer for me. I had my thoracic spine injected, a couple different areas, and within a couple days, I noticed some improvement. But my pain wasn't like constant. It would be if I did certain activities, and that's where I noticed it the most. Because like if I rode my bike hunched over, like that thoracic spine, like that kind of T11 would just ache. It just throb. And then I can ride my bike now, no pain. Snowboarding also, like a day of snowboarding would kill me. And now like I don't even never feel it. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's really
it's pretty incredible. And so I would love to hear it from you guys if you want to plug anything in the chat box. And then we'll get into some science behind like a couple treatments. So one thing is, peptides like ARA290, BPC157, thymosin beta 4 are amazing. And then, what we found is that having these regenerative treatments, and I'm going to share some slides with you guys today, because I know some of you love the visuals, but this will bring back some good memories. So if you think of stem cells, one of the things that happens as we age is we lose these vibrant cells in our body that can essentially become anything. And so one of the things scientists are studying heavily are these immortal jellyfish. And so these jellyfish, essentially, they fall to the bottom of the ocean as if they're dead, and then they go into this stem cell regenerative state, and they grow back, and they become these immortal creatures. And so, if there's creatures out there like whales that can live to be like 500 years old, trees that are 2,000. I mean, in Cedar Breaks, Cade, near you down in St. George, up in those trees are like thousands of years old. Some of them is crazy. Some of the oldest trees on the planet right there. So if the immortal jellyfish, this is where, we start looking into stem cells, and it's like, this is where the real breakthrough can happen. And on the stem cell thread, I got a text last night when I'm puking my guts out. I got invited to hang out with Tim Nelson, the stem cell doctor, the cardiologist who actually got an FDA approval to treat congenital defects in the hearts of newborns. and he's already had dozens of really successful outcomes where they will take a piece of skin, grow the cardiac stem cells in a petri dish, inject those into the infant's hearts, and he has almost a spotless record. So, but what I told Tim, I said, I'm so sorry. But what we're going to do is circle back, and he's going to be on the podcast. So there's a nice big announcement. And then tomorrow, you guys are going to, if you guys join us, tomorrow we'll have Eric Lundergren from Supernormal Greens, where we're going to be revealing some really crazy technology as well in the supplement world and peptide world. So just some cool things going on. Sorry, that was just a little side note. I forgot to tell you that, Cade, that Tim Nelson reached out.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And if you guys look him up. He's he's just got into strategic coach. He was introduced. He told me Dan, Joe Polish, Mike Koenigs, and one other person, connected us. So I'm excited.
What's his first name?
Tim Nelson. He's a cardiologist. And he is fascinating. So I'm excited to have him on. So I'll introduce you to the community. What we're using are not pluripotent stem cells like he is. What we use is just stem cells from perinatal tissue. And here's why, because as we age, we lose over 300 million cells per minute. So if you think of when you have pain that persists, pain is just one of those things that you have to base your entire life around. It's considered to be the number one cause of disability, for work disability. I think back pain is the number one cause of doctor visits in the United States. It's over 80% of Americans will actually experience debilitating back pain at some time in their life. There's just some crazy things around it. But one of the beautiful things about stem cells, and why we use stem cells from umbilical cords and not from you, is because you're losing 300 million cells per minute, and it's stem cells that allow those cells to be repopulated. But as we age, we lose our viability in our own stem cells. So just like we get old, your stem cells get old. And so if you think of one newborn stem cell, it doubles every 24 hours. So these are really robust. They're healthy. After 30 days, you've got 1 billion cells. By the time you're 35, which that's about when, well, you're 35 right now, Cade. So when did you have your first stem cell? 36, yeah.
I think I was 28, 27.
Okay. Yeah. So you could see your stem cells, if you had healthy enough stem cells, that thoracic fracture would have just healed on its own, right? But your stem cells after, 48 hours is when the stem cells double. And so after 30 days, you only have 32,000 cells. So you go from 1 billion cells. If you think about the healing capabilities of a newborn or of a kid, this is where what the work Tim Nelson's doing with these hearts is phenomenal, because he's catching them at the right time, because they have a bunch of stem cells that he's tapping into. And then they have this complete recovery. And he's got a really, he helped a family that, their daughter had this congenital defect in her heart. And they were like the major donors. They put over $100 million into this. And so I can't wait to have him on. He can share a story with you guys, but that's the best time to treat it, because the older we get, the harder it is to heal. And this is why pain, if you don't get on top of it, if you let pain get so severe, it's really hard to treat. I have clients, and if we can get your knees treated in your 40s instead of your 50s, then you just have, like, for example, I just did my whole body makeover, when I turned 45. I was like, I'm not going to tolerate any kind of pain from here on out, because that's when it becomes harder and harder to treat. Even though we have phenomenal technology, it's just the faster you can get on it, the better. It saves you money in the long run. And more importantly, it saves you quality of life, because by the time we're 65, and this is usually when people are like, hey, I need to get stem cells. I bone on bone. My doctor says just go as long as you can tolerate it. And as soon as you can't tolerate the pain anymore, then we're going to replace your knee or your hip or whatever it is. But if you think of the stem cells from a 65-year-old, it doubles every 60 hours. And so after 30 days, you have 200 cells. So we go from 1 billion, and to 200. So if we go back to that immortal jellyfish, the whole goal would be, how can we get humans more like immortal jellyfishes so that we're constantly regenerating? And that's where, I love looking at using these perinatal tissue allografts, these stem cells from umbilical cords, that can really accelerate that process. And then having these beautiful peptides to activate those pathways makes it even better.
You see Elaine's comment here. Had stem cells for knee pain in your office in St. George several years ago. So great now, no pain. Now 80. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Elaine.
Elaine, that's awesome. So, and that's living proof that if you can put some young life, and that's why we don't use your own stem cells, is because we don't always know what the outcome will be. And it's, if you go and culture the stem cells, grow them into high amounts, we still don't have the safety profile. And I know there's people going to down to South America and they're doing treatments there. But I still, we've done over 20,000 of these procedures very safely and very effectively. And Elaine, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm so glad your knees are great. So Elaine, if you think about where you were before you had the treatment and where you are now, what would you say the biggest difference is in your quality of life? And, if you can plug it in, I don't know if you're able to right now, but I'd love to hear that. Here's the decline as we age. Once again, when we're newborns, 1 in every 1,000 cells are these mesenchymal stem cells. By the time we're teenagers, we become grumpy, and it's 1 in 100,000 cells are stem cells. By the time we're 30, it's 1 in 250,000 cells are stem cells. By the time we're 50, it's 1 cell for every 400,000. By the time we're 80, it's 1 in 2 million cells are stem cells. So this is one of the most popular, not popular, but one of the most important things that you can do to keep your health and to prevent this thing called aging. So, so that's one of the most powerful things that you can do when it comes to pain. So, and Elaine started typing in there, but Cade, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, just thinking about what happens to the reservoirs of stem cell populations as we age. I guess what are your thoughts on using some perinatal allografts?
I think it's just amazing how, and I think if you go back even 10, 15 years ago when we started this, the advancements in how they're procuring those and getting more just higher quality birth tissue and how they process it, because obviously you take it from these C-sections, you ultimately have to kind of sterilize it, break it down into flowable. I think initially when we started using this, the potency and the was definitely not as good as it is now. It was still great, but I think it's just progressed the just innovation as far as creating a better product and better stem cell density, I guess is what you could say. Or I think it's not just the stem cells, it's also the cytokines, amino acids, and those proteins that are in this birth tissue is just so healing. And just it's incredible. It's like a very natural, like you're adding in stuff to your body that, in all theory, it's been there before, and it's like the same stuff that's internal. So it makes a lot of sense to just stimulate better and better healing in the body through that type of a injection. I love it. It looks like Elaine finished her thought there.
Oh, cool. I'll go ahead and read that. I can now walk without pain and bend and stairs. My life is much better. And now I don't even think about my knees anymore. It's like I was 40 again. Well, good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yay. You got your knees. You made them, you took off half of the age of your knees. How cool is that? That's awesome. So if you think about these cool procedures, and Dr. Steinley is just like amazing. And so really excited. I don't know if any of you are coming to the retreat next week. I think there might be a couple of you on here who are, but if you're thinking about it, then get out to the clinic. We're having a really cool retreat. Exactly where Cade's sitting is the front of the conference room there, where we have these really cool events. But come and join us at the retreat. Cade's giving you a little demonstration there. Yeah, we have a whole mastermind section. Meet a lot of cool people. We got a bunch of friends from Strategic Coach coming next week. So it's on Thursday. So hit us up. We still have a few spots left, I think. Maybe not. I haven't looked, but one of the things we'll be sharing is you'll have a chance to do some of these regenerative treatments at a discount. And then the other thing that we'll be sharing is some of the peptides that can actually activate stem cells, because one of the things the stem cells do to mitigate pain is they send out signaling factors. And so if you think about the inside of a joint, and for those of you who are wondering, like, well, why does my own signaling factors, why do they get muted as I age? And one of the things that we find is that there's these mast cells in the body, and mast cells are triggered by chronic pain and arthritis. And these mast cells shoot off these cytokines called tumor necrosis factor alpha, IL-6, IL-1, and they cause systemic inflammation and synovial inflammation. So synovial is that fluid that protects the joint. And so pretty much every joint in your body has synovial fluid. Some have bigger sacs than others. But if you don't remove those cytokines and some of these proteases, sometimes it can be really hard to get the signaling through. And so one of the peptides that's been studied extensively is BPC 157. And the interesting thing about this peptide is it has been shown to increase the nitric oxide pathway. And so that becomes protection for those endothelial cells, which are the cells that make up the blood vessel lining. They're also angiogenic. They have a wound healing impact. And so if you think of when you have chronic inflammation, it's like having an open sore inside of your joint. And I apologize, my lighting's so weird because with the daylight savings the sun's dropping early and the lights are off.
Disappeared.
Let me turn them on real quick. There, a little better. So BPC 157, we call this the Wolverine peptide because you can actually inject it into areas that are painful. I had a client of ours who really, he injured his shoulder. He has a business in the Dominican Republic. He's doing this really cool. He grows algae, and he's using algae as an energy source. And so the oil companies are investing in his intellectual property and his business structure. But he injured his shoulder and couldn't get into the clinic again. He was out here in August, and stem cells just did amazing for other areas, and they injured his shoulder. And so I had him shoot BPC 157 directly into it because he took it with him when he went over to the Dominican Republic. And he said the pain's gone. He said it works amazing. So you can shoot BPC right into the areas that are painful or damaged. It also works at healing gut inflammation. So it helps people who've had constipation, diarrhea, bowel inflammation. So I had really severe food poisoning. I think that's what it was. And it was like the worst. And I'm sorry for giving you guys the visual, but just vomiting really violently. And I started taking BPC, and I woke up this morning and was able to do a workout, feeling pretty darn good. And I think without the BPC, it would have taken a couple of days just to normalize my system. So BPC, it helps with collagen repair. It stimulates what's called EGR, which induces cytokine and growth factor generation. It also helps with extracellular matrix and collagen formation. In tendons, BPC 157 increases fibroblastic growth factor through the phosphorylation levels, and BPC also it can decrease some of those pro-inflammatory chronic molecules like the IL-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. It can also help with steroid overuse. So if you've had like the corticosteroid injections into your joints, that can really damage your joint, but you can use BPC to help mitigate that. So phenomenal peptide, lots of different studies. Here's one of the studies where in the rodent model, and this was actually on rats, they what they found is they wanted to see if rats would actually have an improvement in when their Achilles tendon was ruptured by using BPC 157 versus the placebo group that just got water. And what they found is that when rats did receive the BPC 157, they had a better improvement in healing. They shortened the time, and some of the studies that cut the time of healing in half in the rodent model. So pretty amazing. They said it was successful exchange in the presence of reconstructive. It actually may be, they said, tendon to bone healing effective enough that may actually successfully exchange present reconstructive surgical methods. So this study, they're advocating using this post-surgery. So a lot of things on BPC. How many of you have used BPC before? It's probably the most famous peptide out there, I'd say.
Yeah, it's very popular in the kind of the peptide world. That seems to be a very common one, is BPC, and like thymosin beta 4 is pretty popular in the weightlifting and bodybuilding world as well. This is great for recovering, like just rapid recovery, and especially if you get an injury, you can recover way faster.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal peptide on so many levels. And so the other one, and when you combine that with stem cells, there's another one, thymosin beta 4. Those two are really beneficial when combined with stem cells. The other one, if you have nerve pain, this is where ARA290 is really powerful. ARA290, it works on the EPO pathway, so it actually is really good for endurance, good for the kidneys. But what they did in studies is they found in the animal models, they had animals that were injured, and they looked at the sham operated animals, so where the person doing the procedure, they either knew that they didn't know what they're injecting, either just saline or ARA290. But you can see when ARA290 was injected, there's like a 2 times greater level of healing and less pain in these animal rodent models than if they had the sham treatment or the saline, essentially. ARA290 has been studied extensively for the treatment of shingles, sarcoidosis, insulin sensitivity, diabetic retinopathy, nerve pain, mild traumatic brain injuries, heart and cardiovascular diseases, neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, spinal cord injuries and strokes. This was a peptide that was FDA approved as an orphan drug to treat some interesting side effects of certain kinds of leukemia. And right now it's actually in being, I believe it might be approved for sarcoidosis, so kind of some autoimmunity. ARA290 is phenomenal because, if you think of where EPO exists, or erythropoietin, this is this beautiful molecule made in the bone marrow primarily, but it helps with your red blood cells. So if you're anemic, ARA290 can be a really powerful peptide for anemia. Is protective for the brain, helps with hypoxic preconditioning. So this is the peptide that I used, and I beat my previous puke hill climb by 3 minutes. It's phenomenal. I stacked this. Yeah, it was a fun one to get to the top of Puke Hill and just keep going. Oof, didn't even need to take a break. But this one helps with appetite, with metabolism. It helps with oxygen consumption, mitochondrial biogenesis. It converts white fat into beige fat. It's anti-inflammatory. It works on the progenitor cells in the muscles, so some of those satellite stem cells. So you just feel a little more athletic. It's protective and regenerative, so you recover faster. It protects the heart. If you've had ischemia, it brings oxygen to the damaged tissue. And then this one, as well as like BPC, works on the nitric oxide pathway. So it works on those, the endothelium for vascular tone. So otherwise, it's not very, it's just, I don't know, Cade, it's probably not really.
Not that big of a deal.
Yeah, just kind of a wimpy peptide. Yeah, phenomenal. Be careful if you are a competitive athlete. This can be misused as a performance enhancing drug if you do high doses. We don't dose it like that. We don't treat it like that. However, you will notice a nice side effect is that your endurance goes really high on this peptide. So recovery, everything. So I think that's the main thing. All right, so pain. Let's just kind of put a bow on this whole thing. So if you look at pain in America, there's more people that live with chronic pain than that live with cancer, heart disease, and diabetes combined. It's one of the most important things to tackle. And the reason why we're so, bullish on get rid of pain early is because pain is kind of like when there's a problem in your life you're not confronting. You can go without paying your rent for about 2 or 3 months, and then you have big problems, right? You can go without paying your phone bill. Like, I didn't realize my credit card it has expired, and then Verizon's like threatening to call collections. I'm like, well, just tell me, I would have paid. I didn't know, it's like, but they got really mad because I went like 3 months without paying them. And I'm like, I've been paying you guys for 20 years. Like, come on. Those things happen. But if you think about this, when it comes to pain, it's like, it builds up, and by the time it gets so bad where we actually do something about it, sometimes it's too late. And so it's kind of like that old saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago. Everyone will say, well, today is the best time to plant a tree. Actually, it's 20 years ago. You're already too late. And so take care of your pain now, take care of it early. And I know there's so many people living with chronic pain, and hopefully today we shared with you some novel ideas, and there's a whole diet, there's lifestyle that goes along with it. And we'll be tackling that in the next couple of weeks as well. Moral of the story is we have more tools and more innovations now that are safe, effective. They're actually regenerative. So they're going to make your whole body healthy than we have ever had. The world of throwing a surgery or another medication at pain, that's long gone. We've learned that doesn't work. And so there's treatments that work that are phenomenal. So we'll be diving into more things as we go. But Cade, what were your takeaways from today's hack?
Yeah, I loved Elaine. Thanks for sharing your story with us. Just love hearing some of those success stories. I think you think about stem cells and combining them with peptides, doing stem cells with BPC, ARA. Like if you have neuropathy issues, there's different things we can do with stem cells, as well as that ARA, just game changer. And that's something that's really difficult to live with. I think those are awesome. And Elaine, I sent you a message, but I'm hoping you'll let me publish your little chat box thing on our website as a testimonial. Let me know if that's okay.
Cool. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Your challenge for the week is make sure that you do a full body assessment and do one thing to protect your body against pain, whether that's stretching, which we're going to get into, I'm doing the athletic greatness program with Ben Patrick. I love it. Whether it's stretching, Pilates, I do Pilates, my Pilates purgatory with my wife a couple times a week. Whether it's yoga, whatever you want, whatever you can do to move your body in a healthy, natural way to mitigate pain. That's your challenge for the week. So report back next week, and we'll see you on the same time, same place. Actually, next week it will not, because
next week we'll be at the Austin event. We got another event in Austin.
I'll be back. I'll be back. Sorry, guys.
You'll be back Wednesday night? Okay. I won't be here. So
we're having a dinner with the people, but it's not till 6. So yeah, I'll be here next week. Cade will not be here. So we'll dive into more things on pain, but yeah, we'll be back next week, same time. Join me tomorrow. We've got a very fascinating guest. He's from Sweden. You guys are going to love him. We've been doing a lot of work together. I spent hours with this guy, and so I'm excited for you guys to meet him. So thanks, you guys. Really appreciate you being part of our community.
Love it. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a great night.